Hi, my name is Talia, and this is a graphic design case study about a recent poster design I did for Etta's first gallery show, Objects of Necessity. I first met Danny and Emily of Etta through working at a shop called Sommer. Sommer and Etta used to share a space in Bernal Heights where Sommer had the front space as a shop and Etta had their offices in the back area. And since Sommer has moved out to a larger space in Hayes Valley, Etta expanded into the front and turned that space into a gallery. So that new space is going to be where their new show, Objects of Necessity, is going to be. They reached out to me to do this poster design, which I was very excited about. To start off my process, I'm going to go into the references that I was working with. So the first reference is the actual show, and I'm just going to read the description really quickly. Objects of Necessity explores our attachments to inanimate objects and their function, ritual, and indispensability, examining how tools, vessels, and everyday forms quietly structure the way we move through domestic spaces, indoors and out. In addition, Etta sent me photos of some of the artist's work that was going to be in the show, and this was super helpful just to help me get an idea of the overall like vibe and look and feel of the show. And what I generally picked up on was more of like an earth tone color palette and like very organic shapes in the sculpture work. My second group of references that I was working with were the references that Etta had pulled, like graphic design specific references. And to me, they really fall within the sort of like Swiss graphic design style, really playing with like grid structures and also a lot of white space. And in the exact references they sent me, there weren't a ton of colors, like 2 to 3 colors max. There also were not really any graphic forms beside the text itself, so no like illustrations or like extra imagery. And before I get into my actual design process, I wanted to mention something I've been thinking about a lot, and that is the use of references, and specifically references that aren't just graphic design works. So in this case, I had the sculptures to work off of, which was really great because I was able to get some overarching themes from the sculpture work that I wouldn't have necessarily gotten from the graphic design references that Etta sent me. And in other projects, I've had other like paintings or other artwork as references, or even like interior design as references. And I feel like that helps you not kind of paint yourself into a corner. I'm just going to go over my first couple iterations kind of quickly because I was a bit flustered in the beginning and it took me a minute before I settled on an idea that I felt was really worth exploring. My first idea was repeating words and using that as a way to kind of create form on the page. I think it was an interesting idea, but once I also added in the artist names, it started to feel very cluttered. And as I went back to the references that Etta sent me, it felt like less out of line because a lot of the references they had a fair amount of white space. So that's why I didn't go with that one. My second idea was creating an image or sort of sculpture with the letters and the words. And in this case, it's like a flower in a vase. And to me, it still just felt a little cluttered and also felt a little bit on the nose for a sculpture show hosted by a garden design company. So that's why I kind of moved on from that one. My third set of explorations is what produced the final design. It's these two like mirroring sets of text, except the one on the right is upside down and it has some letters falling into a pile underneath it. Building on this idea, I also explored putting like a larger text, like the title text behind that. I didn't really like it, so I didn't use that. And then I came up with this idea of putting the left side text in a container and having that container fall to the bottom of the space. And this felt good because then it felt like the two sets of text were kind of in the same environment and dealing with the same sense of gravity, but in two different ways. So it felt like they were more kind of in conversation with each other. Then from this, I sorted out the color palette by going back to the sculpture work that was going to be in the show. And I also used my dictionary of color combinations to find a color combo that felt like it fit in with the sculpture colors. And that is the first draft that I sent to Etta. And they really liked it. Their only note was that it looked pretty similar to a design that I did last fall for Rising Star Laundry. Obviously, the main overlapping element is this like sideways container with the text in it and like the left aligned text, which is totally a fair call out, and I could see that as well. And so, since we still had extra time, I decided to explore some other options and see what I could come up with. I tried a couple other versions of like different sorts of containers to see if I could differentiate a little bit more, but I didn't really like anything that I could come up with. And so I decided to scrap the container altogether. And I went back to the graphic design references that Etta sent me and really realized that a lot of them had that kind of playful grid structure and like offsetting words on different lines. And so that is what I decided to try out. And I think this worked really well because the two sets of text were able to interact together even more with the way the left set of text was swooping through the falling letters on the right. And it gave the work a more kind of like organic feeling with the amount of movement happening. And yeah, and like this text and these letters and words are in their own little like world or environment together, kind of interacting and like playing together or something. And this way, I'm also maintaining that sense of spaciousness and simplicity that I think are held in both sets of references, the graphic design references and the sculptures themselves. I sent this final version to Etta and they were super happy with it. And so this is like the final version. I'm glad that they kind of pushed me to keep exploring and that we still had the time to do that, to kind of come up with something fully new. And the end product I'm super happy with. Yeah, thanks so much to Etta for coming to me with this project. It was really fun to work on, and I can't wait to go to the opening and see all of the beautiful work in person. I hope you all enjoyed my video and found parts of it to be insightful, and thank you for listening.